Hello, everyone. Seti Matua. I'm your host on the Black Sand Journals, where we talk about faith, family, fun, and everything in between. I know it's been a long time since the last episode, but I'll probably do another episode that can tell you some of the things that have been happening lately in life. And honestly, I just needed a little bit of a break before jumping back into it. And jumping back into it today, we have a wonderful guest, a beautiful young lady who's joining us to give us some insight into her life, her faith, as well as her own family, and get at her own unique perspective on her professional life and things that are happening that may be of use. I know it will be of use to you as a community, and you're listening in, have questions, reach out to her. She's a fantastic person, married to a great guy, and I want to introduce you to Alafou Ulukivaiola. Hi, Fo.
Hi, Seti. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
You're very welcome. Thank you for accepting the call. Let's start with a little bit of an introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you were raised, your family situation, so on and so forth. Anything that you'd be okay sharing with the world.
Yeah, of course. So I am Alafou Ulukivaiola. I was born in Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. And then I was raised in Kailo, Kona, Hawaii by my dad and my beautiful stepmom. And I was there all the way up from fourth grade, all the way until I graduated high school at 16. And then from there, I went to go live with my mom, who lived in California most of her life. And we stayed out there until I went on my mission. But yeah, I am married with 2 children. My amazing husband, he is actually best friends with Seti's oldest boy, and that's
Yes.
how we actually got in contact with each other. But I found out sooner than later when I talked to my dad about your family. He was like, "That's family. We know the Matuas all the way back to Samoa and stuff." And yeah, I'm just a mom. I'm a wife. I am a beautiful daughter of Heavenly Father, and I am I'm just so excited. I don't know what else to say, but yes, that's where I'm from and that's where I'm at now.
Wonderful. That's a lot of stuff we're going to unwrap and unpack and
Yes.
get to know you a little bit better. You mentioned a stepmom and dad. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. Samoan heritage.
Yes.
Do you recall your father's and your mother's villages in Samoa?
Yes. So my dad's from Pesenga. He grew up in Pesenga. And then my mom, she grew up in Falalatai. Yeah.
Wonderful. And of course, your stepmom is of Hawaiian ancestry. Is that
Yes, she's
correct?
Hawaiian Samoan. She was raised everywhere, but she is a Red Raider for life. She graduated from Kahuku. And then
Good.
my stepdad, he's from Carson. So we have a blended family and
Nice.
it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So many things in that. And thank you for sharing that. As you mentioned, known your dad, excuse me, since we were kids running around here in Utah as well as in Pesa. I'm a little bit older than him, just slightly.
Yes. Just since a little
But
bit.
but for those of you, the listening audience, I know many of you are from the Pesana area. Fo's maiden name is Palepoi. So just to help you make that connection there. Speaking of roots, culture, family, etc., let's start with something simple here. What word immediately comes to mind when you think of your Samoan culture?
Ooh, humility for sure. I think that was one of the things that my dad not forced, but enforced with us. You know what I'm saying? And he is everything when it comes to humility. Everything that we do from service to giving to even just going to school or even talking with people, you have to have that type of humility to just let people be who they want and you just kind of help them with their life, if that makes sense. My dad is a man of a few words, I'm pretty sure you know, because you remind me a
Yes.
lot of my dad. And
Well, thank you.
that was, yeah, of course, that was one thing that was one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn was when it comes to Samoa, when it comes to Ananu, you have to have the humility within yourself to be open to learning all these things. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah, definitely.
instantly when I think of that, I think of my grandma, and her favorite word was onosai. She
Mm.
was like, "Fo onosai," and I was like, I don't like that word. But it all comes with your the way that you are with your just the way that you are with yourself. You have to be humble. You have to humble yourself to kind of accept everything that's coming into life. And I'm sorry I kind of rambled off, but yes,
No, that's beautiful.
that's the word that comes instantly when it comes to our culture. I know there's a lot of with every culture, there's a lot of things that kind of overshadows a lot of good parts of our culture, but I love to just focus on the good. And so, yeah, that's
It's amazing. I love you. I love that you use that word "faux" because there's a lot of times when I ask that question, something that immediately I think comes to mind for most people is the respect that we have in our culture. But I love that you use that word because you can't, in my mind, humility leads to respect
yeah.
in many situations. Do you think that in today's Pacific Island cultures, Samoan culture in this situation, do you think that that part of our culture is dying a little bit, the humility part?
Think it's less focused on. I wouldn't say it's dying because every single Polynesian that I've talked to, and mind you, I'm not the majority. I'm just
Yeah,
yeah, I don't speak for every Polynesian, but every person that I've been coming into contact with or with my family, they always go back to what they learned prior to even getting to this point. For example, like it doesn't matter if we're with people who are older, you serve those who are way older than you, if that makes sense. Like if I have my
yeah,
grandma or, the lomokuas and stuff that come, they get served first. Mind you, my dad, he wasn't as strict when it came to Fasamoa, but a lot of things that he taught us was based off of how he grew up in Samoa. There's always a time and a place that, but I feel like it's just one of those things where it's there, but it's not as enforced, if that makes sense. I'm
yeah.
not sure.
It does. And you bring up a valid point, an important point that it really comes down to, I believe, it comes down to the focus of that specific family within our culture. And it sounds like for your family, a lot of it had to do with we are we're operating from a place of humility and
Yeah.
everything else on top of that. That's the foundation is the humility in your
Yeah.
family in particular. And everything else worked because of that foundational belief that it starts with humility and then we just build everything else on top. I love that a lot.
No, yeah. And to go with that, like a lot of times people don't understand that when it comes to humility, you're really putting yourself lower than those who you are being humble with, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what offers that space for you to give respect to that person. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Yeah.
it's really forgotten sometimes that I put myself lower than those who I speak to and those who I talk to who I respect heavily because they've not only earned it, but I look to them like that. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of that big gesture of being respectful comes at a cost of the person that's trying to show that respect to whoever, and you can't have one without the other because I feel like it means so much more when it's like that. Like I learned so much from, my husband being Tongan. You really have to understand that with the humility, you put yourself lower than a lot of people in order to show them that respect, that you do respect them in whatever capacity that you want to in that moment and stuff. And I really appreciate that about my culture because I am able to just show my love in a different way or my appreciation in a different way by how I serve somebody, how I talk to somebody, how I treat somebody point blank. I always start with humility because you never know. And I would love that same love back, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really love and appreciate that perspective. And you mentioned your husband of Tongan descent. What is it about now that you guys have had a few years together as husband and wife? You're now raising two beautiful children. What is it about the Tongan culture that you love the most so far?
I love it all. But if I had to, I think, oof, I know a lot of people would disagree with me just with just with their own personal preferences, but I just love I love the way that they do their fahu system. Like,
Mm, yeah.
let me go into that because a lot of people are like, that's kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? But coming into it, coming into it, not even knowing anything about anything that had to do with the fahu or whatever that was, I kind of looked at it at a different way with the way that I show my love to my husband is through his sisters. And the way that they show their love to their brother is through his kids. And mind you, it takes a village to raise people. And this was the village that my husband was raised in. I wasn't raised in that. You know what I'm saying? Like when it came to my dad's sisters or my mom's sisters and stuff, it's one of those things where if we weren't close, we weren't close. And it was just like that. But everyone in my husband's family, they're all close. My
Yeah.
from the oldest to the youngest. And he would always tell me it's because like they understand their place. They know that they're always below somebody and they know that they're always above somebody. And so, regardless of where you're at, you still have that respect for everyone else. And my first interaction with my husband's Fahus, they were so loving, regardless if they knew who I was before. They were so loving from the start and they just showed love regardless of how I was. They've never even met me, but because they love their nephew and it
Yeah.
went with his entire family. And I love that so much because we don't have that. You know, we have the high chiefs and the Macais and everything like that. But when it came to just that maternal respect for their aunties and my kids' fahus and everything, I really, really love that about it. It's beautiful when done properly, obviously, but I think that's one of my favorite parts with the Tongan culture is they're just love and respect for those who are above them and those who are below them. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I
Yeah.
kind of, I just love it so
No,
much.
no, I love that you bring that out because there's a lot in that part of Tongan culture that I admire as well. That maternal part that you mentioned, as well as that nurturing part of women. I don't sound sexist there, but that maternal and nurturing part of a culture that helps people, especially men,
Yeah,
maybe tame the natural parts of us that we tend to default to because we're natural beings. But that nurturing part of us is all centered on the loving part of our culture, which is phenomenal. Thank you for bringing that up. There's that added layer of it as well, where a brother, when he looks at his sister in our culture, that is where she receives her protection
hmm,
from the world. And I love my sisters to death. I love
yeah,
their children. And I hope that they feel when they're around me that I am their comfort and protection from the world as well. And that's a part of our culture that I really admire and love a lot is having the opportunity to look after our sisters in a way
yeah,
that, like they say in Samoan culture, that they're the pupil of our eyes. So
yeah,
when our eye is when you poke our eye, then
right,
it affects the rest of us.
yeah,
And so,
definitely,
yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It's I know in today's maybe not, but I see it. I observe situations where that's not so much the case anymore. Where
yeah,
we're losing a little bit of that love and respect for the maternal, nurturing part of our culture. Yeah, how do you feel about that?
yeah. I think no, and I totally agree with the whole protection of our brothers because I grew up and I was the only girl for a time, like our entire childhood. I was the only girl and there was so many boys that my parents had and I couldn't go anywhere without my brothers. And that was that was my safety net. When my dad wasn't there, my brothers were
Yeah.
always first in line to take whatever before it even got to me, and it never got to me, and
Yeah.
I think nowadays it's just, and it makes me a bit sad because our mothers are everything, and just that maternal love with our culture, it's shadowed by how tough we have to be nowadays, like in this
Yeah.
day and age. Like we are portrayed as, strong. Regardless if we're Samoan, as women, we're portrayed as being strong minded and
Yes.
Polynesian women, and I feel like just that maternal side is kind of is being forgotten, not too much, but
Yeah.
just by what I see on social media or just with friends and family, it's one of those things that are a bit shadowed by being the tough, being the, you know what I'm saying? And I
More
don't know how to like,
masculine parts of our
yes,
culture. Yeah.
yes. And like a lot of people were like, you're someone? Oh, you're very nice. And I'm just like, what does that have to be like? What does that have to do with right? What does that have to do with anything? Because once we are in our space to where we can just be as I don't know a word, but as free as we are able to be, it's beautiful. Like when we serve, when we do fa'aus, when we got Yesua, when we just pretty much get our models.
Yeah, that's what I think that's the one of the things that I can garnish from this part of our conversation is that in when we're in our element, from my observation, when we're in our element, it seems like the women revert back to the more feminine parts of them. But when we're confronted by the world, a lot of our masculine traits start to present themselves. I don't know if I'm
Right.
saying that correctly. We're probably going to get torched online, but
No,
it seems like that's
no,
like
but it's true
in a
because
worldly
like
setting, we really have to protect our space. But when we're in our natural element with our families and the people that we love, we soften a little bit because we're now operating out of love instead of going back to our warring culture where we have to fight for everything in the world.
yeah, and it is what it is. Like our Polynesian culture, we're known, especially in the mainstream and stuff, we're known
Yeah.
to take these forms of hardcore, very masculine
Yes.
people.
Yep.
And it's hard to even just put ourselves in that. And I think with everything I think with just, I don't know if you've already seen like the live action Moana or whatever, the live action
Yeah.
Moana movie, but
Yeah.
with stuff like that coming out, like that's what I love to see. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And that shows like a different side
Both
of us that,
sides. Yeah.
yeah, it shows both sides. And I feel like just we don't always have to be like that. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't always have to be like that. Like I'm never like that. I'm always calm. I'm always collective, and I only get like that once we are pushed to the point where we have to, like, there's no way out. It's kind of like a defense mechanism. I feel like
Exactly.
when it
That
comes
fight or
to,
flight type of
yes, it's that.
mentality.
And I feel like all Polynesians have that. We're very calm. We're very collective people. And
Yeah.
it's all the way up until we feel like we have to have a defense mechanism where
Yeah.
it comes out and stuff. And I just hope that I just want people to see a different side of us and to see that playful side. And because there's so many people that I know that are just straight jokes. Like everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like we have
Yeah.
such a good time together with family alone and even with our friends and just being surrounded by polys. I love my people so much. Like I love us all the way, and it's just being able to be in that wave of people finally like seeing different sides of us, our culture, just our culture being put out there. is amazing to see. And I love to see that for us, especially, and
Yeah,
I'm not knocking anybody else that didn't get that type of representation, but a win is a win. So
that's right.
I'm gonna take that for us for real.
Exactly, exactly. And speaking of different sides, I through the years have really loved watching the melding of our Polynesian cultures. You guys are a good case study for that, where even though we have our Polynesian or Pacific Island culture,
Hmm.
there's also a micro level of that where there's variations or differences within Samoan cultures and Tongan culture. In your relationship, when you have a little bit of a clash on how you were raised to do things versus how Folo was raised to do things, how have you guys been able to resolve that in your own relationship?
Ooh, I love that question because we're not only different with culture, we're different with upbringing.
Yeah.
For example, my
And
husband my
even
husband was born and
who,
raised in
who you are
Inglewood.
as people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very like if opposites if opposites could attract, that would be us for sure
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
like we came from opposite sides of the world and we just came together and we worked together very, very well. Just a little background. My husband, or well, my husband, but grew up in Inglewood, California from day one all the way until now, and he's full Tongan. Me, I grew up in Hawaii, Kailua Kona, small island. Everybody knows each other. The Aloha State,
Yeah.
always happy. Everybody knows each other, and I'm Samoan through and through. And so when we first started to just piece our relationship together, and even now we're still learning how to raise our kids in a way where we just take all the good that we've learned and leave all the bad, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's just,
Apologize.
yeah, we try so hard just to piece our own type of teachings for our kids.
Yeah.
And some of the clashes that we get are not mostly culture because in Hawaii, we were raised with everybody that you can think of, any type of culture from Cook Island to Maori to Tahitian, Micronesian and stuff. And so we're a melting pot. So in Hawaii, we are pretty much a melting pot. And so I didn't have a problem with learning a new culture, getting into the family and figuring that out. With my husband, either, he only grew up with Tongans, like his family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he grew up with different cultures being, you know what I'm saying? And so I feel like we clash more on upbringing than anything else. Cause it goes from even our parents, like my parents, they separated when I was young and I have two sets of parents. His parents have been together for forever. Like they were sweethearts through and through. And so just our upbringings are the only things that we clash in. And when we come to that, there's an example that we always use when we would always just remember that we're not our kids. And the only thing that my kids didn't grow up with is parents like me and my husband. Same with, same with on my husband's side and stuff. And so I just have, I think the best thing for us is the biggest word is compromise. We have to compromise with everything. And that was hard for me to do because, I grew up where it's either like this or it's nothing else, and that's what we were taught. Like I wasn't taught to speak out on how my mom did things, how my dad did things, and trying to figure out how to communicate and compromise with my husband was totally different from what I was used to,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
just figuring out how we communicate as a couple and how we compromise with each other really, really helped us figure that out because, our kids, they learn more by watching than they do by listening. Let's be honest. I never listened
That's
to
true. Yep.
anything. I never listened to anything that my parents said to me until I was absolutely I had no choice but to, and so I think I would watch them do some things and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do that with my family. And I would watch a lot of other people, and that's what our kids do. They would rather see more than listen. And so we try to communicate more instead of argue. Obviously, if we argue in front of our kids, we fix it right then and there in front of them as well. Because a lot of times when we see people argue, we don't see the resolution spot and we don't know how to do that in future scenarios. And that's what I didn't learn. I saw some of the fights, I saw a lot of the fights, but I didn't see the resolution part. And so when it came to me and my husband, he was like, you can't just go and then think it just fixes on its own. He's like, we need to fix it together. And that was new to me. So yeah, compromising with your other half and communicating with your other half was one of the big things that gets us through any type of culture clash or even just any type of upbringing clash that we have in the future, even today, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And it is a balancing act. I'm sure your parents, your in-laws, other parents that you're familiar with can all attest to this, that even all these years later, you're still trying to get to know each other. You're still trying to get to know communication styles and also trying to get to know the best way to resolve conflict in your relationship. And trust me, it's very difficult. And a lot of times, me personally, I revert back to old ways of resolving things and it never works. And that just is a confirmation to me that the way that has always worked is sitting down and in our situation is saying, all right, let's approach this from a Christ-like perspective.
Right.
And if we do it that way, I know that it's going to be resolved in a way that is helpful to both of us, to our children, our grandchildren, as well as to those who are on the outside looking in. What do you think about that? Can you point to a specific experience in your life where you had some opposition, but you resolved it? How did you resolve it? And how has that opposition helped you in your professional life, in your family life, every aspect of your life?
Right. I love these questions. These are just with the first question that you had, where you just looked at it from a Christ-like point of view
Yeah.
and just went and just did it that way. I think that is honestly the best way to look at it. Sometimes the natural man just takes over, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
all of that goes
Yeah.
out the window when I'm
Yeah.
mad. All of it goes out the window when I'm mad. And it's the best mentally, physically, and emotionally because you're not only willing to let that other person know how you feel, but you're willing to take it as well. You're willing to hear them out too. And I feel like that's important because thinking Christ-like is the most humbling experience that you could ever do for your spouse, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a great example, honestly, because when you're thinking like that, you're not thinking in the heat of the moment. You're not thinking to attack your other half. You're not thinking to like let them know how right you are. You're in a state to where you just love them enough to just move past it and focus more on loving them instead of criticizing and stuff. And so I really love that. I forget about it all the time, but I remember it all the time.
Trust me, you and me both.
I forget about it all the time, but I remember it as much as I forget about it most of the
Yeah.
time. And thank goodness, bless my husband's heart for his patience, because the times that I do forget, he quickly reminds me, and it works like that. And then going on to your next question, an opposition. You said opposition, right?
Yeah. Was there a moment in your life that was a turning point where you had to pivot because of some opposition that you were facing? And how did that experience or how has that experience helped you in all of your relationships, whether it's in your family life, your professional life, or even in your interactions with the public?
Yes. One opposition that was a turning point for me was when my mom passed. My mom, she passed in 2023. And at that point in my life, I think I was just so comfortable with where I was at. And I don't know about a lot of people, but we really don't understand how fragile life can be until life gives us a moment to actually really understand how fragile it is. Like we use it as life gives us a real life frame of reference to always reference back to that. And losing my mom was honestly the worst pain that I've ever felt, physically, mentally, and emotionally at the same time. And I didn't know that that was even a thing until I lost my mom, and it was crazy too because the year before that, in 2022, my grandma passed away, my mom's mom. And my mom, she was the main caretaker for my grandma. And that's a big thing for us. Like we don't believe in and shipping our parents other places. Like we want our blessings come from our elders and everything. And my mom put that on her chest and she wore it every single day, and she took care of my grandma. And when my grandma passed, my mom came back and we all were in the same house. And I flew back just because my grandma was in the hospital from COVID. And they told us that she needed to go to hospice. And when I found that out, I flew with my kids and I went straight to California. And the next day, my grandma did pass away that morning. And just seeing my mom come home and seeing her grieve her mom, I didn't know in that moment that she was teaching me what I was expecting the year after.
Mm.
She was prepping me for what I was about to experience afterwards. I didn't understand it at the time. And she threw herself in service. She threw herself in church. She threw herself in just worrying about everybody else except for herself. And that's where I feel like the gospel came in hand for her. It was the most important decision that she made was to throw herself back into church because that was the only thing keeping her together, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
She would always tell me, like I was telling her, I was like, girl, like, are you going to get another Fanamilame and doing more and doing all of this? And she kept telling me, and she was like, Fo, like, you don't understand the hurt that these people are feeling until they're coming to serve you because you're experiencing that as well. And that's where I was like, okay, let me help you try to figure this out. Cause at this time I was like, man, I don't know what you're going through, but it breaks my heart to see you like this. And soon after, my mom dies the next year, and it hit me like a truck. It literally, like the
Yeah.
biggest truck that you can think of, it hit me emotionally and it tore me apart. And I think with these moments in our life, we feel like there's no other reason to just go on with life. We kind of die with the dead a bit. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm able to
Yeah.
say that, but I really felt like that was my only option until I woke up every morning and I saw my kid's face, and I looked at my husband and I saw my husband's face every single day. And it kind of gave me a reminder, not a new reason because they've always been my reason, and it kind of reminded me that even though my mom's work over here on earth was done, mine's isn't, and I had to gather up that motivation. I had to gather up everything that I needed to do for myself and for my family to just get out of that rut because it's just a ongoing loop of just sorrow, and it kind of pulls people away from reality. And it breaks
Yeah.
my heart just to even think about that. And I I lean on my husband a lot for everything. He's one of my mentors, and I lean on my parents in Hawaii. And my dad, he always said something, and he kept telling me, he said, "Oh, you need to mourn when it comes, because then you're going to be mourning for the rest of your life," and it doesn't stop at one point in your life. It comes and goes in waves. And if you try to push it off, if you try to work it off, if you try to pray it off, it's going to wait for you to come back. And I think with that moment in my life, it made me strong, and it made me realize that I went through losing my mom and losing my grandma. I can do whatever I set my mind to. Like, no type of rejection, no type of no would hurt my feelings enough to make me quit, because this didn't, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Nothing will, if it's not meant for me, then it's not rejection, it's redirection. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's, I have a totally different view on life now after losing my mom, and it's made me the person that I am, to not just worry about what's going on with other people's lives. I'm present, and that's why it's such a gift. Now is such a gift for us, and that's why I feel like it's called the present, because I'm always here, I'm always in tune. I'm in tune with my kids, I'm in tune with my husband. Wherever we're at, I let them know, I'm like, "Oh, I'm here. Like, I'm with you. I'm in tune with everything." And that's one of my biggest strengths, is just being able to be there with people and talking and being in the moment, because that moment is as gone as much as yesterday when you're done with it, and we can't get that
Yeah.
moment back. So we
Yeah.
gotta keep going, and we have to keep doing these follow your dream, do all the cliche stuff. Like, nothing is too high for you. And you've like, I feel like these storms that are sent through our life, they're there for a reason, to make you realize, as a frame of reference, that you already went through the bad. Like, nothing else can be that bad compared to that. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
I use
Yeah.
it more to my advantage, that I'm not afraid of what people have to say about me, say to me. If they tell me no about my business idea, I'm like, "Okay, well, let me just go this way," and it's
Yeah.
it's the way that I look at
Like you
life
say,
now.
redirect.
Yeah, it's not rejection, it's redirection for sure.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
learned, yes. And yeah, sorry.
No, I love that a lot. There, there's so much that we can learn from those types of experiences. I know I have, and there's different levels of grief as well in my mind, and I've experienced different levels of grief, and that's a tough one when you lose a parent or a sibling or even a spouse. You have to go through it in order
Yeah.
to understand what it is that you're being taught from those experiences. There's a beautiful analogy that we often overlook in our culture that
Mhm.
I learned while living in Samoa, where all things are natural, and when a coconut falls from a tree, if we allow that coconut to go through the adversity that it needs to go through, eventually from that coconut will sprout another tree. And if we let it grow, then it's going to be a lifeline to everybody who will partake of its fruits. And that's the same way in life. Like you say, it's a present, it's a gift. And it's hard to look at grief as a gift, but it really is, because that adversity, that opposition that you're feeling in that moment, if we allow ourselves to learn from it, we'll have to sit in it just like your dad taught you. We have to sit in it and experience the darkness for a time, but the sunlight and everything that comes with that natural process will eventually lead us to life sustaining experiences that will help all of God's children if we allow ourselves to share that with the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm glad that you are, and we're not going to forget them. We're not going to forget about the pain that you experienced during those moments either, but you're definitely going to learn something that will help other people experience it through you as well. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that.
No, of course. Thank
You
you for
mentioned your
asking.
business. Yeah, of course. You mentioned your business, your profession. Tell us a little bit about that and what hurdles you've had to overcome to build this business.
Yeah, of course. So I just graduated from marketing school in May this year, and
Great. Congratulations.
I just wanted to launch something that is as adaptive as myself. And I launched a marketing agency where it looks for gaps in everybody's marketing and it looks for just what's holding you back. So I look for things that hold your business back, that will kind of get you to that next level when it comes to either technology or digital marketing or just even ads, just to get you to that next level where you feel like you need your business to do. And one of my name for my business was created in honor of my family, pretty much my Samoan heritage. It's called Talanoa Marketing. And the reasoning behind Talanoa is because one, I love conversating and I feel like being able to Talanoa with everyone that you come in contact with, it's an opportunity that goes both ways. And so I feel like the best marketing is word of mouth. So
Yeah.
that's especially with our Polynesian community, that is the best way to spread either good news or whatever type of news you want is through Talanoa, through communication. And that's why I named my business that, because I don't want to just do these mainstreams, digital marketing classes and everything like that. I want to actually sit down with people and hear their story. Everyone utilizes what they don't know, but I utilize what you do know. I utilize the culture. I utilize your storytelling skills. These aren't skills that we just learned. We've had these skills of storytelling. We've had these skills of gathering and knowing how to speak to people, being happy people, being easy people to speak to. I just utilize our strengths just to get you to that next level. And that's what I'm doing currently for my own business. In order to get my business to that next level, I need to talk to more people. I need to get on more. I need to do more podcasts and stuff
Yeah,
like this,
definitely.
and just get myself out of that box of just hiding and waiting for something to happen. One of the downfalls that I feel like with a lot of Polynesians is that they're scared of making that jump because they are afraid to bet on themselves. And that's a battle that I
Yeah.
fight all the time, is I'm afraid to bet on myself. But I hear so many people in my circle and in my just those who are around me. And it's really true that you need to surround yourself with people that you want to be like when you get to that space in your life. And I have enough people to tell me that you got it. Like, bet on yourself. You're okay. You're worthy.
Yeah.
And it's just that inner thing that we have to do as a person and as people, that we just have to feel worthy of ourselves to even just do that opportunity and take that risk and just
Yeah.
jump. Like the worst that can happen is you can fall. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Our that's the worst thing. And people won't like you, and who cares, that's the worst thing that can happen, and then just go on to the next, and I didn't want to be stuck in that box of what if anymore. And I I felt like there was such a big need because we're so special as a people. And I'm all about Polynesians through and through. Like I support them, love them. I am Polynesian, and I married one. I'm raising Polynesian kids, and it's about time that our gifts are being shown in mainstream or even just in our social medias, in everything that we do nowadays, because we're that special. We really are. And if it takes for more people to get out of their box to show people the way on how they can utilize their gifts to acquire these positions or acquire this audience that they've been wanting to acquire, then so be it. it takes that one for everyone in the family. And what's honestly the worst that can happen? Like
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
our parents,
Someone
our
will say no.
grandparents,
Yeah.
right? Our parents and our grandparents did not take no for an answer when they came to America. You know what I'm
That's
saying? I
right.
feel like that's harder. I feel like it's
Yeah.
way harder
Yeah.
than starting your own business. Like I see it so many times in the digital world. Like a lot of the stuff that I learned in school made me feel like, dang, that's so easy. Like that's something we already do so
Yeah.
easily. Just speaking with people, just putting a phone up and record. Like a lot of people are like, that's not like, it's not that easy. It is easy. You see people do it every single day. So why not us? Why not us?
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great reminder. I feel like there's a common thread or a common theme with origin stories of our people taking a risk, just forgetting the fear and acting in faith, having the courage to do something that not everyone is willing to do. And that's why I live in this country today, is because my parents took a gamble. They acted in faith. They came here. They established themselves. And now I have reaped the blessing of being a citizen of this great country because of their ability to overcome the fear and act in faith. And I think for many of us Polynesians, that is our origin story. That's the reason why we navigated the biggest ocean on earth, is because we said, hey, we need to go beyond what we see right here to open up the horizons to the rest of our generations.
Yes.
And that, I think we continue to forget that that's where we come from. Yes, we're a warrior culture, but we're also navigators. And we have to, whether it's in technology, in the medical field, whatever field we choose to follow, where we're drawn to, be confident and be bold that you belong in those spaces. And if we could just get back to that, and maybe I'm overlooking the fact that many people do that on a daily basis, but we're so much more than what the mainstream culture says we are.
Yeah. No,
And,
definitely.
and,
And
and it
even,
requires a lot of that faith and being bold and
right.
courageous.
Do you feel like with just everything that you just said, with your family coming over here and you being able to reap the rewards of them being able to come here, what are some things that you wish that you could tell your younger self that would benefit the generation now that didn't get to experience that? Because my parents, they're immigrants, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
my kids won't be able to kind of connect with what I went through with my parents and my grandparents. And so what's something that you feel like that you would like to tell your younger self that would benefit this new generation that won't have to experience that?
I had this conversation with a dear friend earlier this week. And sometimes when we walk into the room and we're the only one who looks like us, we have a tendency to say, maybe I'm in the wrong meeting, or maybe my experiences and my education and my learning don't quite meet the level and expectation of the rest of the people in this room. And if I had an opportunity to meet with my younger self, I would probably tell myself, hey, you belong in this room, and don't let anybody else tell you that you don't. And that requires the same boldness that we have when we stand on stages and entertain people, because there's a duality that we experience as Pacific Islanders, where we have to navigate both who we are naturally and who we are trying to become. And a lot of times in when we're in boardrooms or in spaces that we don't typically see our people in, I'm going to speak from my own experience. I had a tendency to say, oh, wait, maybe, maybe I need to take a step back and let somebody else lead. If our ancestors took that perspective and allowed others to lead instead of standing up and saying, I'll take us, regardless of the consequences, I'll take us to where we need to go, then I think today, and I think our kids will experience this. I know that my kids are experiencing this in their own lives, that they're not afraid to stand up and say, let's think about it from this perspective, rather than taking a step back and saying, all right, you guys say something and then I'll tell you what I feel. Is I would say just have the courage to stand up and speak boldly about the things that you believe in.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So you mentioned something that I'd like to dig in a little bit more. When you meet someone for the first time, what is it? What is a question that you really want to know about that person from the very beginning of your conversation?
Mm.
Is there something that comes to mind where you meet someone for the first time? It's like, I'd like to know more about this person, and this is the question that I'd like answered.
And I think,
What are you most curious about them?
yes, I love that. Cause I love a good question. That's my favorite thing is having a great question and just getting to know somebody and who they really are. I feel like the first question is the most important, just to not only break the ice, but to kind of set the flow on what everything else is going to be. And I think I wrote a couple down.
Maybe this will help you, and this is why
Yeah, sorry.
I think that
I was like
no,
looking at
that's
my
okay.
journal.
No, that's okay. And formulate your thoughts, because this is the reason I asked that question. Growing up, I was often the kid who didn't like asking other people questions. I would formulate my answer based on my own questions. Like, for example, if I was sitting in a classroom, I wouldn't necessarily be the one. And I think this is my nature. I didn't want people to have the assumption that I was feel poco.
Yeah.
So I would, even though I really wanted to be smart, I would formulate my answers or resolve that whatever conflict was in my mind by asking myself questions. And do you think, or have you experienced situations where people had misconceptions about you because they weren't willing to ask you the questions?
I think,
Or maybe they
yes.
formulated an opinion about you based on what they gathered from other people rather than asking you.
Yeah, yes, all the time. A lot of people, yes, a lot of people, they, just because when I have conversations with people, I always try to leave that conversation with an impact, if that makes sense. Every conversation that I do have, I always try to leave that person better off than what started. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
when I do have these conversations with a lot of people, or what I've heard from just friends and family, is that a misconception that I get all the time is that they did not realize that how observant I've been, if that makes sense. Because a lot of people who are outspoken, I'm a talkative person and I'm very outspoken when it comes to things that I'm very passionate about. And so when I'm speaking with people, I not only do my research on them, I kind of figure out not just the tone, not just the conversation, but something about them to the point where I know them before I actually meet them, so that I know that the conversation is going to be good. So we have like a common ground. And so a
Yeah.
lot of people that I talk to, I have a common ground with them before even starting the conversation. And they don't realize that the misconception is that I was more observant than they thought, because they were coming in not knowing anything about me, regardless of what they've learned or over social media or from people, is that they came into a conversation not realizing that I am not as I'm more genuine than they thought, that I really enjoy these types of conversations and I really enjoy getting to know people. And that was a bit of a surprise for people because, I I have a friend who she's a yapper and she talks and then she forgets what she said 2 seconds ago and she just keeps yapping. And then I have another friend who doesn't yap at all and she just observes and she's only talked to when someone is talking to them and I totally get it and I totally understand. But what that's a misconception that I usually get from a lot of people is that they didn't realize how much they enjoyed a genuine conversation with somebody that they
Mhm.
just met, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I don't know if
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Some of the best
I don't
conversations I've ever
yeah.
had is with people that I had nothing in common with and that I made a rush judgment based on their appearance or
Yeah.
something I heard from someone else. And rather than allowing them to tell me who they are, I based it on misconceptions or judgments that I made of them. And I think that's a, it's a skill,
Yeah.
first of all, but it's also something that we as people, as human beings, are missing in interactions, in connections with people, is asking the question.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I do this is because I want to know more about people to better myself, not
Right.
necessarily. And during that journey of getting to know that person, I'm finding wonderful things out about them, things that I can learn from their experiences. And if I dismiss the opportunity to get to know this person and have that curiosity that this person is, and it leads back, I hope I can loop this back to this conversation that we've had about our relationship specifically with our parents as well as with our partners or spouses. I think sometimes, especially in those moments where we're dealing with the natural fight or flight opportunities in relationship to whether it's Follow in your situation or Jen in my situation, we immediately start to fight rather
Yeah.
than looking at this person and saying, and it's easy for us because we love this person so much
Yeah.
to fight with them. But if in those situations, I'm getting better. I hope Jen can confirm that
Yeah.
for you. But I'm getting better at saying I need to take a step back and look at Jen, first of all, as a child of God, as a daughter of God, and see that worth to him first. And then as a secondary item, looking at them and saying, this is also my spouse. I'm able to resolve the things in my mind that I came into this conversation / argument, arming myself with all of that material. That doesn't matter anymore. What matters most is, as a child of God, how can I help you understand my perspective? And in the
Right.
process, can I also understand your perspective so that we can resolve this conflict in a Christ-like way? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think just being spiritual and having a relationship with Heavenly Father is the utmost important for
Yeah.
my life and for my family. You know, me and my husband, we both grew up in the church and he served in Tonga, I served in Australia. And
Nice.
we have that outlook on life that's a bit different from a lot of other people, but we don't use that as a one up for other people that we are speaking to. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make us any less, it doesn't make us any more special. It doesn't make us any more favored. I think for our lives, particularly, just the gospel itself has been everything to us to just lean on in times of sadness, in times of happiness, and just everything in between. And I think that is the most important in our relationship. And you can even talk to Bubba with you can even talk to Bubba and I'd say the same thing. Like we talk about this all the time. Like if it wasn't for our faith in God, if we would be able to be here and he'd say no and I'd say no right back. And I think just with everything that we go through in our life, like, it's not perfect, and my husband is not perfect,
Yeah.
and I'm not perfect either, but we try to create something that is as perfect as what Heavenly Father brought us together for, if that makes sense. Like, the purpose of us being together is just to love each other and love our kids enough to teach them what we hold dear to our heart. And that is the utmost important to us is our relationship with Heavenly Father first, and
Yeah.
it takes a strong man. I say man because it's always my husband that kind of bends first. And he always, me, I'm so horrible. And this happens with us all the time. When I'm mad, I, everything goes out the window and I forget and I just want to be right. With my husband, he understands that it takes so much strength for him because no matter what I can do, he still looks at me the same way that I know that you kind of, when you set yourself back and you look at Jen, the way that, what's it called? With your Christ like eyes, both of you guys, bless your souls. And he kind of just lets me rant. And then when I come back to reality and I realize that I'm just, just running my mouth for free just because I want to be right. And I look at him and he's like, so what did, what was that for? And I said, I don't know, but I think it takes a lot of strength in a man to kind of look at you the way that Heavenly Father looks at you
Yeah.
just to fix what he didn't break, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What he didn't even
Exactly.
start, or even vice versa. Like, I look at him the same way if he's hurt by what I do or I'm hurt by what he does. It always has to take that one person to just look at you the way that you need to in order to move past this. Like, I I'm very, very grateful for how my husband is when it comes to the church and when it comes to our relationship with Heavenly Father is because he puts God first, even before me, which I don't even want to get blamed off of this, but
Yeah.
he puts he puts God first and I put God first. And then we put each other second, and then with that dynamic, I feel like we can go through anything that the world has for us, and I I need to give you guys your flowers because the way that you and Jen the way that you and Jen handle adversity or even just confrontation, you remind me so much of my dad because my dad
That's
is the
that's
same
quite the
way.
compliment.
No, it is like you're more outgoing. You're more outgoing than my dad, but my dad, it's okay. Like, it's not gonna, he's very like, why
It's like
would
you
you
said
even?
before. It could be worse.
No, literally. And it's just like, you
Yeah.
can't be mad at that because he's so, he's so calm and he's so humble to the point where if an example of Christ-like love was a person for me, I think my dad would be number one because he could take any situation, any bad situation. Even if I'm arguing with my husband and I tell my dad's just like, but your husband loves you enough to go to work and do all those hours and still take care of you. He's like, doesn't that? And I was like, that had nothing to do with what I was. I was like, that had nothing to do. And he's just like, no, but look at all the good. Look at all the good that your husband's doing. And I was like, holy, I need to call my mom. Like, this is not like this. You're doing
Yeah.
too much. But I,
Yeah.
I really,
But it's
really,
like you
really
said,
love him.
you redirect.
No, seriously, and he's the best. He's the best example of that. And just speaking with you today, like it's so refreshing, but it's a bit familiar too. And I know we talk about God and Heavenly Father and everything. And I just wanted to just thank you for that because a lot of times it's not there's not that much space to even do something like that, especially
Yeah.
in like
Yeah.
conversations like this. Like I served my mission and I served in a place where it is dominantly one religion that wasn't LDS. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
they were all for their religion,
Yeah.
and my job wasn't to just force them. My job was to show, was to serve them and to love them and to show by example and be the message that I was sent to share with them, and that that's been everything to me, and that's molded me into the person that I am today. And that's the only thing with everything that we've been able to talk about today. That's pretty much the glue that kept me together to get through all of
Yeah.
this, to take that leap for a business, or even just to raise my kids and to be with my husband. Everything is all centered on the love that I have for Jesus Christ and the love that I have for Heavenly Father, and
Beautiful.
it doesn't matter what, it really doesn't matter where we are in our life. Like, Heavenly Father is always gonna be so relevant with anything that we go through. And I thank you so much for just even giving that space, because sometimes, a lot of times, I'm not even going to say sometimes, all the time, I forget, you know, like I forget. But then the great thing about Heavenly Father and the great thing about our relationship with Heavenly Father is that He gives us those opportunities to,
Yes.
always come back, just to reel us back
Yep.
in, go back to the basics and just, renew our love with Him and just be okay. Cause I honestly don't know where I would be without Him. And thank you again. Sorry, I
Oh,
just wanted to give you your flowers on that, because not much people are doing that and there's not much space for that. But thank you for always making space, because he is I wouldn't be Alafou Ulukivaiola without him first. So yeah, thank
thank
you.
you so much for that. Thank you for being open and honest as well. And I I take that as a huge compliment that I remind you of your father, because he's always been uh, an example to me of that humility that you mentioned in the beginning, and just having the patience and the openness to accept whatever comes his way and coming out on top. So thank you for that. And it's been a wonderful conversation, Fo. I thank you once again for your courage and being brave to open up to what potentially could be the world, whoever listens to this podcast. And I think that's the invitation that I have would like to close on, is just letting people know that there's. I reminded a young man not too long ago the words from our prophets, that faith and fear cannot operate in the same space, and that in order for us to progress in life, we have to take, just like you in building a business, we have to take the necessary steps that require a bit of risk in order for us to grow in whatever situation we find ourselves in. So thank you for your testimony. Thank you for being you. And thank you for allowing me an opportunity to ask these questions and being honest about them. Any last thoughts before we end things?
No, I think thank you. This has been so mind blowing. Like, it's one of those turnaround moments for me once again. And the great thing about life is that you're always going to have little moments that kind of mold you into somebody that you want to be in the future. And this is one of those moments. And yeah, I thank you so much. And
You're very welcome.
just, yes, thank you.
Yeah, my love to you and to Follow and the kids. I hope we can do this again.
Yes, we
And
need
to
to do
the,
it in person.
yeah, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
our next one for sure.
To the listening audience, that's our invitation to you, myself and Fo, is take a risk and be bold, and remember that you are worthy of the things that you are trying to do, and that Heavenly Father will empower you to do the things that you in your heart would like to do in this mortality. And as a final reminder to the listening audience, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this with your network and your people, so that we can get the word out there about the Black Sand Journals and the things that we're trying to do to empower not just our people, but everyone in general.
Yes.
We love you. Looking forward to hearing from you again. Please leave a comment and let us know how we're doing. Otherwise, thank you, Fo, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you. Bye, Seti.